How are you guys doing today? Welcome back to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Manny Maradiege, coming to you live today on Tuesday, October 8th, now officially through 5 weeks of the NFL season. And with that, we got some more games to recap today, but of course we're going to talk about the biggest news of the day, the New York Jets firing head coach Robert Saleh after the first 5 weeks. Completely unexpected, so we're going to go into discussing it and analyzing it and giving you guys my thoughts on it as well. We're going to talk about the game last night between the Saints and the Kansas City Chiefs, as well as going over some of the other games as well, like the Cardinals, the Browns, and the Jets as well to cap it off. So make sure to stick around for that. And before we get started, I'd like to remind you guys, if you guys have any questions or comments or any opinions you'd like to share, please don't hesitate to use it and share it with me during today's show. If you want to make it absolutely sure that your message stands out and gets featured on today's show, there's an easy way to go about that. Just use the new Super Chat feature that you see on your screen and that we have available to you guys just by clicking the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your Super Chat. This way, it guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So again, get involved with the show, send in a question, make a comment or anything like that, and use the new Super Chat feature to make it sure that it's absolutely guaranteed that I see it, I read it out loud, and we make it more conversational, more interactive. It's a lot more exciting, and we always value your guys' interactions each and every time. So make sure to do that. Use the Super Chat button and get involved with the show. But with that being the case now, we're going to start off with last night's game first off before we get into the Jets news, because I need a whole segment to talk about that. So we're going to start off with the Kansas City Chiefs. A big win last night for the Chiefs, despite all their injuries, despite missing Pacheco, Rashee Rice now, and the latest news on him. Obviously, Hollywood Brown not being there as well. And the Chiefs did enough to get the job done, right? They kept pace with the Minnesota Vikings after last night's win to remain perfect over the New Orleans Saints. Both now the Vikings and the Chiefs still remain the only undefeated teams. The Chiefs won last night's game 26-13 to go to 5-0, while the Saints dropped their third game in a row and now are 2-3 on the season. This time around, the Saints put in their second lowest point total of the season, 13 points against the Chiefs. Obviously, just 1 point above their lowest of the season against the Philadelphia Eagles a couple weeks ago, where they also lost that game, that time at home. And looking at the performances out of this game, you're thinking, who's going to step up for, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and Pacheco, right? Who's going to step up for the Chiefs outside of just Travis Kelce, right? None other than a blast from the past, two former Chiefs coming back to rejoin the squad and having great games on the night. Kareem Hunt on your left and JuJu Smith-Schuster on your right. And just looking at these two guys, right, Kareem Hunt, 27 carries for 102 yards, and he scored a touchdown. Then JuJu Smith-Schuster, right, 7 receptions, 130 yards, tacked on to Travis Kelce's 9 receptions and 70 yards as well. And Mahomes, he did his thing, 28 for 39 for 331 yards. No touchdowns, but 1 interception in the game. And it was, from the number standpoint, you're looking at 102, 130. Mahomes threw for over 330. You're thinking that, this was a great game for the Kansas City Chiefs offense, but they did struggle a little bit in the red zone. I'm pretty sure they were 2 for 7 or something like that. So obviously room to improve there, but still, getting performances like Kareem Hunt, like JuJu Smith-Schuster's is an amazing sign to see, obviously. So that's great to see from those two guys. Like I mentioned, Travis Kelce, having back-to-back games now that he's recorded 7+ receptions and 70+ yards. Last week, he did it against the Chargers. Now he continues it this week. And on the other side, the Saints, only 13 points. They really struggled, like we said on the preview, where we said that the injuries to the offensive line were really going to make it tough for them to kind of make it so multi-dimensional that the Chiefs have a hard time trying to stop the run, trying to stop the pass. And it became a troubling thing because Derek Carr finished 18 of 28 for only 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He left that game with an oblique injury. He did not return, obviously. And on that running game, right, you look at Alvin Kamara and his output, he recorded 11 carries for 26 yards, which was the lowest so far of the year for him. Rashee Shaheed had a nice game, 4 receptions for 86 yards, and that 43-yard touchdown, which was great to see at that point in time where it got them closer. But again, we're talking about a marathon, so to speak, right? Not just the one play where you get close. You got to make this a whole series of things throughout the game that you can build on and keep pace with the Chiefs. And I just felt like the offensive line issues were going to make it extremely hard for the Saints to go ahead and do that. And then you also look at Chris Olave, right? 2 receptions for 10 yards. Again, his worst performance of the year. And, you know, in a sense, the Chiefs, because their defense is pretty good as it is, they don't really have to over-focus on maybe the running game. They could focus on taking away Chris Olave because the running game they might not feel as worried about because the offensive line's banged up. They don't feel like they could necessarily out-muscle them or just, you know, outmaneuver them just one-on-one. So you got more guys allocated to try and taking away Chris Olave. And then from that point on, you're chasing the game now. So Kamara's not really running the ball. And then it just gets all out of sorts, right? And looking at the game a little bit closer and the actions that transpired in this game, it was a bad start for the Saints, honestly. Much like Joe Burrow mentioned, I think it was a great quote that he said when he said that he had to be perfect, near perfect, to defeat the Baltimore Ravens. And he basically was, and he got as close as you can get to beating them. And I feel like that goes the same for anybody that's going into Arrowhead trying to beat the Chiefs. And you can't have a start like this. Derek Carr, on the first possession of the game, he gets pressured. He tries to throw it out of bounds. Of course, he doesn't mean to throw the interception, but you know, it was a very weird throw, very high throw, and it obviously didn't have the weight to carry fully out of bounds, and they throw an interception right then and there. And the Chiefs score right after that. The drive right after that, their first drive of the game, Kareem Hunt scores a touchdown, and now they're down 7-0 with getting the ball first. So now you're chasing the game already, and after a few punts and Kansas City kicks a couple field goals, the Saints showed that resilience, like I said, where Rashee Shaheed scored that touchdown to make it 10-7. So now, after a bad start, you're thinking, all right, we're right there. 3 points, let's keep this going. But again, it's hard to do that with the running game being so withered down, with your offensive lineman being out and you not being able to fully run the ball is one thing, but also use play action. Now Steve Spagnuolo is blitzing Derek Carr every other play and whatnot. So it's hard really to gain any momentum from that point. It's too spotty to beat the Chiefs, if that makes sense, especially when they get performances like this. And then Kansas City led at halftime with a 16-7 score. And then after a few chances, they had to take the lead. You know, they missed a field goal and an interception at the goal line by Kalen Saunders by the New Orleans Saints that kind of gave them a little bit of hope. But, you know, after that, Foster Moreau scored a touchdown, and then you're back to 3 points. So, again, you're right there. But it always felt like, I don't know if it was just me, I never really felt too concerned about the Saints maybe beating the Chiefs. You know, they got close, but you always got to get a feel for it. I feel like you could always tell when a team's really serious about coming back or whatnot. And I was never really worried. I don't know if the Chiefs ever felt worried. They just gave up a lot of big plays on defense as well. And, you know, the Chiefs did a good job of responding with another touchdown after that Foster Moreau touchdown to Xavier Worthy to pretty much end it after that because the Saints went 4-and-out twice, and that was pretty much the ball game. So, you know, after the game, thinking about both of these teams, while Kansas City won, you know, they were 2-7 in the red zone, and the protection for Mahomes, at least on the outsides, you know, the tackle position looks a little bit questionable. So that's something that obviously they're going to have to get better at going forward. But really the main takeaway from this was that they were able to take advantage of an injured group with the Saints through the big plays by JuJu Smith-Schuster, and Patrick Mahomes had a great day on the ground running it as well. they just find ways to win. And with the Saints, you talk about that interception from Derek Carr, and the injuries. It's not a great recipe to try and beat the Chiefs. That always feels like they know exactly what to do in the big moments. So it was always going to be an uphill battle. But looking at the Saints now, talking about them going forward, the question is, how concerning is this, right? Because they started off so hot, and now you lose 3 in a row, and Derek Carr is reportedly set to miss a couple of weeks now with that oblique injury. So, what is this Saints team going to be now? After such a promising start, your quarterback's not going to be there. What does this mean for Davante Adams? Is he going to want to be there if Derek Carr's not there? All of these things where it seems like the Saints were getting to a place where they could have competed this year. Now it all seems like in a matter of weeks, it has all just crumbled down. And, they do have a lot of injuries, but, after losing 3 straight now that they have to host Tampa Bay on Sunday, now they're already 0. The Saints are 0-2? No, they're 0-1 in the division already. Or excuse me, they're 1-1 because they beat the Panthers and lost to the Falcons. So, these next divisional games are going to be important now without Derek Carr. What is this team going to be before or after when Derek Carr comes back, right? Are they going to be close to 500? Or are they just going to continue losing? It's a dangerous spot where the Chiefs are standing right now. The Saints need this upcoming win more than the Buccaneers do, I believe, but I don't know if it's attainable now with Derek Carr being injured. So the Saints right now, if I were to put it on a 1 to 10 scale, I would probably say like around a 6 or a 7 if I'm a Saints fan, because, no quarterback now, divisional game, you don't want to drop to 1-2. And, from that point on, I don't know exactly what the rest of their schedule is, but you don't know when Derek Carr's coming back. So how does that dictate everything you try to do? It's not a great place to be for the Saints, as much as, they look good at the start, they have good players, but a lot of unfortunate turns of events right now for them to kind of feel better than, I think, a 6 or a 7 on a worry scale, right? So that's just me. But speaking of bad scenarios for teams, I don't think it can get much worse than the New York Jets. We're going to get into the firing of Robert Saleh now after this upcoming break. Why did they do it? My thoughts on it, and, what can we expect now from the Jets moving forward? All of that coming up right after this break. We'll be right back.